What's up, everybody, and welcome to Biz Talk, the show. And once again, we are bringing another entrepreneur in the trenches. We don't always bring them from the trenches, but we like the ones who are in the trenches, plowing over obstacles and making changes and waves and disrupting the system. And I am here with Maurice Lauriano, correct?
That's it.
Of Got Goals LLC. So we just sort of met because we had the matching haircut. And it was a kickoff from there. So welcome to the show, Maurice. You are out of New York, correct?
I am born and raised, bred New Yorker.
So we have you here in New Jersey today. You okay, right?
I'm totally. Thank you for being so taking care of me and making sure I feel safe. Yes.
So your business Got Goals. You tell me about it. But you were not an entrepreneur before this.
That's right.
You worked for the system, the very system we're trying to teach people about.
Exactly. So I was a procurement officer for the New York City Department of Education, and actually came up through the ranks through the Bloomberg administration in 2003 as a parent support officer in the Bronx and deputy superintendent in the Bronx.
Wow.
You know, I actually led schools and did support work around education technology, truthfully.
Wow.
And so I actually made a niche for myself in everything technology, whether it be software, whether it be programs, and making sure computers work and we get more computers into the hands of more students. It was a great journey, I would say. But what happened is I figured out I'm too young to retire.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
I'm too young to retire.
I think there's definitely a group of us that have this, I want to say, entrepreneurial DNA, and there's not that idea of ever stopping. Like even though
Exactly.
we know, like, hey, do I really want to be with my walker at 86 telling the people what to do? I know I do.
Exactly.
You know what I
Hey,
mean?
thank you. You see, we match in that. So I decided that I needed to figure out how to get this message into the hands of folks who are just disenfranchised and just not in the know.
Yeah.
And there's so many of us who are just never in the know of how do you break into a school market, but yet you see so many others doing the work and it looking so simple. And it's like, well, if you had the right navigator, it is simple.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. I mean, because again, you were inside the system, so, and you did the procurement. So now you're on the outside of that, teaching people how to navigate the New York, Board of Ed system.
Correct.
In that procurement scape. But how did you go from a leap from being technically a govy into private sector? Like, where was that shift where you like,
Sure.
somebody needs help?
Sure.
Like, what sparked that?
So my final 2 years in the agency, I was direct service to vendors.
Okay.
And I was also the person who I realized no one in procurement speaks to a vendor. Like they like when I called and told you, hey, I got your invoice, but I can't pay you because of this, that, and the other. They're like, what? Who are you? Where are you from? No, you're kidding me. Like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, but I'm a customer service. I'm an engaging kind of guy. I'm willing to help walk you through the process. And it turned out that many of those small businesses were the ones who may have did something small wrong on their invoice, but because of that, they're never going to get paid.
Wow.
And
really, yeah.
you don't know who to call in the Department of Education to say, but I was the person who pressed the button to say, yes, okay, you get paid, $44 million budget. It was easy to me, but that's because I have my years of experience.
Right.
And that's also why I wanted to give back and turn it over and find others who need this information.
Yeah, and that's a huge need. I mean, I forget what the number was in 2022, federal numbers, federal bid dollars, federal procurement dollars was, I think, in 2022, 400 billion or something like that. And it was only like 23% of small businesses nationwide had taken advantage of federal dollars.
Yes.
So the question then came to my mind was like, well, what about state dollars?
Exactly.
What's the percentage in state dollars that is being given to that whatever percentage of small businesses? And it's not because, from my perspective, it's not just because people are not in the know, it's they're not prepared. They don't know how to do it in that sense. It's not even I don't know, it's out there.
Right.
It's just all the little nuances.
Right.
Or that one phone call they make to some procurement officer who seems disengaged. And not because they are disengaged, because they're overwhelmed.
Exactly.
But they're just,
Thank you.
and it just deters them. Oh, do I really? So it's definitely your service is a niche, especially being, or I don't even know if it's maybe it's a niche, or maybe it's just a damn want. Like, we need it.
You say that, I can't find people who want it.
Because again, I think that comes
And
back
that's
to
the niche.
That's the niche.
And so I'll tell you that the New York City mayor has said by 2030 he's going to make sure there are $60 billion worth of money available for MWBE businesses.
Yeah.
Minority women business enterprises are at least $60 billion by 2030. But you'll have these organizations go ahead and apply, businesses that get the certification but then don't know what to do with it.
Don't know what to do with it.
And that's where I come in.
Right.
That's exactly where I come in, and I figure out, okay, here's what you need to do with your certification so you can get access to that 60 billion.
Right. And you know what? That's the thing that, so when we built the Procurement Com brand, it wasn't because agencies weren't doing this or doing that. It was because there's a stop at some point. And then there's that what if question, because agencies help small businesses get their certs. And then at some point, the business doesn't progress forward because they don't know what to do with it, or the agency has a stop because that's where their services stop. And so there's this gap. And so when we created this, we found people like you to come help talk and fill that gap so businesses can now move forward and take advantage of it. Because the reality is that a business got to spend money to make money. We all know it.
Yep.
You have to hire a private consultant to help you, or a navigator to help you. But the ROI on that, when you start winning these, even the most minuscule contract, your first contract could be $250,000.
Yes.
But that $250,000, the next contract.
Yes. And once you get one contract, it is a rolling stone of money. You will always get others. You will always find other agencies and other units that want to do business with you. Your Vindex number is going to stay high because you're just that much valuable. So break into it early.
Yeah.
And you'll know that you'll have a perpetuity of money.
So let me ask you a question, because we talk about New York, right? And you specialize in New York. And certainly in every state, in every city, because that's the other issue of procurement, right? And supply chain management and government contracting, is everybody sort of does it a little different. So it is a bit of a conundrum for some people. Well, I won this contract and I wrote this bid, but this is the same exact one for Syracuse.
Yes.
But I didn't win, and literally it's the same kind of bid.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the differences. So do you help people understand those differences? Like, oh, this is.
So let me explain the difference in your scenario. And there's two big things I heard. The first is you may not have been the lowest bidder.
Right.
And if you're not the lowest bidder, then the government doesn't have to choose you. But the government procurement officer, being me a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't have to go with the lowest bidder if I don't want to. If there's something that the other bidder is able to offer, and that's part of their contract services at the same price, then you can go with them, even though it's higher than the lowest bid.
So yeah, that's there's this myth out there that the lowest bid always wins, and that's not true.
It's not true. And it's very important to know who you need to talk to so you can make sure you get considered.
Yeah.
That's a really important piece.
Right. And I mean, there's definitely a bit of who you know. It doesn't mean you have to know somebody in that office.
Exactly.
Because they
No.
can't play the bias game.
No.
But working with somebody who's been in that area, in that
Correct.
space, is very valuable. We have a gentleman here in New Jersey, Raphael, and he was in the Govy space for 30 years or 20 years. So he's a person you want to know because he knows how to navigate through the red tape, and you do the same thing.
Exactly.
You're like, navigate through this red tape.
I think of myself as the GPS that gets you to where you want to go. We all can drive, but do we want to drive in the slow lane? Do we want to drive in the medium or the fast lane? And there are some of us who need to be in the HOV lane,
right?
And who can afford to just go ahead and pay for someone who's going to, kind of help a navigator. Because I got to tell you, I don't read maps anymore. I don't know about you. And paper maps are long
nobody
gone,
does them.
right?
Nobody knows.
So the GPS is where I think of myself at, you know,
That's a
trying
great
to think through
analogy.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I
Special,
mean,
difference
again,
maker.
you know, I said it earlier. I said when we started our government, when Black Ink started doing government contracting, we were like a blind person in the dark, because there was not. It wasn't just that we didn't know where to go for the resources. There was just so many out there, and it was too much. It was like information overload of how many resources and the amount that we didn't know that existed out there. So just on the resource pool for a small business in government contracting was a lot to learn and to find. And then there was then learning all the different ways. Like, you know, we did a contract in Connecticut, a master services agreement in Connecticut. And, you know, you think on an MSA, you're going to just get, here, send us the quote.
Right.
But all of a sudden it's like, send us the quote, but here's all the things you have to write into the quote. But wait a minute, my MSA said this. Why do I have to rewrite all this?
And the insurance.
Right, and then different insurances.
Yes.
So you can have an MSA, by the way, Master Services Agreement, MSA. You can have a variation of, you know, in that MSA, because that MSA covers like 25 different agencies.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like
It's inclusive.
navigation is really, it is a key, and that's where you come in.
Totally.
You know, so let me ask you this. Is it difficult for you if I said to you, or a small business reached out to you from, let's say, Atlantic City, and they said, help me navigate Atlantic City? Are you in a position, just because you're in New York, can you help them in a place like Atlantic City?
Totally. The rules are the same, and there's just small nuances to it. So the work that I do is equal, and I intend to provide that type of diversity so that if you, no matter where you're at, we're able to make that type of introduction and connection, because I am great at navigating the rules. I'm an analyst. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
And I would rather do that work for someone else and let them iterate and do their business process, because that's what they do best.
Right.
So that's where the marriage comes in, and totally the opportunity, whether it be New Jersey or even some of the smaller counties, or even, you know, as far as Connecticut, you know, that
You can get anywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that you're experienced in that New York landscape, and it is probably one of the major,
Exactly.
most intertwined and hardest to navigate system. It's probably, you know, I don't know how many.
Everyone else's rules are based on New York's rules.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I
the intent.
can't imagine that it's like easier than, it's probably just as hard as NASA.
Exactly.
You know. So where would people find you on the web?
Definitely go to educationsalesconsultant.com, and that is educationsalesconsultant.com.
And is there a general email address they can email you?
gotgoalsllc@gmail.com.
Okay, and that's
Got
on the
goals.
screen. So Maurice, you guys are going to see more Maurice with us. We hope to have a really beneficial relationship with you going forward. So keep an eye. You're going to want to follow Maurice on social. Where can we see you on social?
x.com/M.Lauriano, MLAURIANO, M.Lauriano. And that's also on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn as well. So check them out. So folks, this is how it works. You got to get out there. You got to contact people. You can't wear all the hats. There's a point in your business where you can't be the graphic designer, the accountant, the busboy, whatever it is. If you're looking to sell your products or services anywhere in the country, in the government space, whether it's a state, local, or federal level, you know, you're going to need help. And you're going to get help from government agencies, but you're also going to get help from folks like Maurice here, who are former Gov. And those are the best guys to navigate. So, folks, you need to go out there and you need to go make some shit happen. This is what entrepreneurs do, and we want you to be successful. So, go out there and make something happen. And we're out.
Nice.